Welcome to the Drawing Solo podcast. My name is Mason McKinney, and I'm with.
I'm Norton.
And if you want to find out how to get inspiration from anywhere, make sure you sign up to the newsletter and get a free ebook that'll show you how to do so. My free gift to you. So, Norton, where are you from?
I'm from Sheffield in the United Kingdom, or as we in the business call it, the UK.
Nice, nice. Tell me, what do you create?
I just created a webcomic called After the Fall. That's the main thing I create at the moment.
Can you explain After the Fall in 7 words?
So I've been trying to prepare for this and do it in 7 words. So I've got it in 4 words, which
Okay.
is post-apocalyptic adventure comedy. The extra 3 words I'd choose to preface that in brackets would be work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to create your post apocalyptic adventure comedy?
I think it's a story that I've been working on for, I'd say, a good while. Um, I studied film at university. So when I originally had this idea for this overall story, it was like from a film perspective, like very cinematic, and started writing scripts for that. But I think the difficulty with anything like that, even trying to create short films, like independent amateur films, it's really difficult. You need a lot of people for it. I tried a couple of times to do some like short 10 15 minute films relating to it to sort of kick off and see what happened, but struggled to get anyone to sort of commit regularly and dedicate the time they that I needed from them. Essentially, it's when you're not paying people, it's hard to keep them around. And I ended up gravitating towards something I could fully control, which was um, comic. I try and write it like prose, a book, but I'm not the best of writers. I think it takes too long. But I feel like I was all right at drawing, and I'd always wanted to learn as well how to draw purely from my imagination, and this was the opportunity to sort of to do that. So it's a learning opportunity for me more than anything to try new drawing styles, try and learn the fundamentals, but whilst creating something that motivates me to keep going, if that makes sense.
How difficult was it converting your skills through film to the medium of comics?
Um, the honest answer is at first I thought, oh, this is not very difficult, and it might sound weird to some, but the first chapter that I drew was the quickest chapter to draw. And it's the one that I go back to, and I'm like, oh, this is more or less spot on as I wanted it to be, minus the fact that I couldn't draw very well back then. But in terms of how I pulled it together, it was like more or less what I imagined at the time. But then, as I've continued to draw further chapters and try and bring more of it to life, uh, you sort of the more you learn, the more you know that, or the more you learn that you don't actually know, the more that there is out there to get your head around. And I think that's what I mean by it's a work in progress, and I'm learning through doing it. When I get my head around how to do one thing, the very next page I'm trying to do something else. So it's always sort of taking me a little while, but it keeps me engaged. It's really interesting.
Are you more into the visual aspect of the comic book medium or the writing aspect? Because I know it's like a delicate balance between the two, but which one are you more inclined to?
The writing, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was trying. I've changed my position on this significantly, but I think when I first started, I was very much like, if I can just tell this story, doesn't matter how well I draw it. If the story's engaging, people will um, uh, engage with it, they'll enjoy it, and I can get this story out of my head because I think that's quite cathartic having a story in your head and then being able to just transpose that into uh, a comic. I've always found that rewarding. Um, but yeah, I think I've shifted quite a bit as I've moved through drawing the comic, and I think I'm trying to put more emphasis on the visual side of it now. Um, I think yeah, it's going back to what I was going to say. Like being honest, I thought I'll be a bit like one from One Punch Man. I'll just draw it. I'll do it to a very quick rough story as long as you can see what's happening, and then maybe someone with a lot more talent than me will come along and will go, I like your story. I'm gonna bring it to life to you in a much more talented way. But then, as I've gone through the process, I've found a lot more enjoyment out of learning to draw and trying to just improve with that.
Yeah, I can really relate to your come up when it comes to getting into the medium of comics because I wanted to be a an animator for TV and film a long
Yeah,
time ago, and I used to do a lot of independent stuff for myself just to understand the principles of animation and art and so on and so forth, but I would spend like years making animation and not get a lot of notoriety. I know like a lot of people say it's like eyeballs or something, but when you're an artist, you want people to see what you create. There are
yeah.
people that can create in a vacuum and other people that want to say something with their art or just want people to see what they've created.
Y-
So,
Yeah,
what do
I
you
think I'm
think?
sort of in a middle ground with that, where it'd be nice to get people to. Again, well, maybe that's a bit of a lie, actually. I'd love like millions and millions of people to read and read, sorry, and view what I've created. But um, if no one reads it, it's not going to stop me from producing it. I'll um, still do that because I find just the process of drawing it, getting it out of my head, getting it down onto the page very rewarding.
Do you think that there's a perception of artists who really is all about the art and don't want to care for money or anything. They just want to like make their art as a self expression and then leave it at that. Like, what do you think when it comes to that, and how do you feel if like do you have like that kind of notion at the back of your head when you talk about your projects and you want to get it seen and you want to hopefully get it monetized one day? Like, do you ever think about like
Yeah.
that? Not that like a, I guess I can't put it at anything else as like a little devil on your shoulders. Like you shouldn't be doing this. Like you should do it for the art. Art is the end all be all, and it should be
Um,
free.
Strangely enough, no.
Oh really? Oh,
I'm like,
you're a fortunate one. You're a fortunate one.
yeah, no, I've never even thought of it that way. I'm like, the devil on my shoulder is, I want to be productive and I want to try and draw every day as much as I can every day. And I think I feel guilty if I'm not drawing, um, or if I'm not drawing enough.
Where do you think that guilt comes from?
I don't know, working class background and wanting to work
Yeah,
hard. Hard work is its own reward.
yeah, I absolutely understand. Like we are, I feel like as human beings, we are kind of called to create. Like if we don't
Mm.
create, we die, in a, in a sense.
Yeah, I think I am very creative, and I think that ties into why I wanted to create a comic because I can't think of many other art forms where the, the control of the creative process is as involving as creating art. You're creating an image or an artwork from you know ink and pencils. Um, See a lot of people that create and they're creating from reference, um, which there's definite skill there. But for me, just being able to go right in my head, I've got this image and I'm just going to put that onto the paper and I'm going to make it look as amazing as possible. I think that's one of the most difficult things I've ever tried to master in my life.
How important is creative control to you?
Um, I don't know. I've never really had to fight against not having creative control. If I were to consider like censorship or um, if someone else was getting involved in the comic, I'd always like to have control over the story itself and how that unfolds. I think I'd always want to progress that and until I get it to its end.
I
Just
feel that.
from me, sorry, I don't. Yeah, no outside influence on that one.
Okay, yeah, because I imagine that being and having a background of film and saying that you have to work with several different people with the
Yeah.
project, I feel like everybody would have like their own takes or their own little spins or
Oh yeah.
altering the message. And
Well, we made a film at university, like in his second year, and prime example of that. It was like it's a group project. There's four people in the group, and the one guy's like, "Oh, I want to write it." So I'm like, yeah, yeah, you can write it. So he goes away, comes back, goes, "Right, I've written it. Can we see it?" No, no, you can read it, but you can't change it. This is my vision. This is what I want it to be. Yeah, all right, fair enough. Well, we'll film it. And then it's like, no, no, I'm going to film it because it's my vision and I want to film it. I want to bring it to life. I'm like, right, okay. And then we're like, well, we'll at least edit it. We need to do something. It's a group project. And the guy took the files for the film and went and like basically locked himself in his room and edited this film. And like my second year project or one of, I had no involvement in it. That all I did was stand at the back of a room with one of the reflectors, just like sieving because this guy would not let anyone else come anywhere near it. And I think yeah, it's it's very frustrating when that happens.
like, does that happen often?
I wouldn't say so. No, I'm a bit old. I've got a lot of well more life experience under my belt. You understand like what causes conflict and how to collaborate or how to try and get people to collaborate. And I think when you're in that situation, you can get a lot of competition. We've got people being competitive with each other,
Right.
and that's not collaborating. And what you want to do is you don't want to compromise where one person's getting their vision and the other person's sort of not getting theirs. You want to meet in the middle. You want to be able to work with someone that you can work together. And when you're at university or when you're making short films, I find that there's a lot of people that want to steer the ship and they want to be the captain. Not many people want to sit back and just do their part. Um, it's difficult.
That kind of reminds me of sort of the around 90s and or 2000 era of animation,
Yeah,
that like there was a lot of marketing of people saying, "Hey, you should be an animator." And when you're good, you can you can sign on to like Disney Channel or Cartoon Network or
yeah,
Nickelodeon, and then you can have your dream project created or something and pitch to us, and you can get your dream project created. But the weird thing is, I don't know when it started per se, but there has been this weird not stigma, but notion that if you had like people selling their child, their dream projects to these
yeah,
networks, and when their networks find it convenient for them to drop it, I think something that happened like recently, like the Warner Brothers Discovery thing that happened, where they
right.
just dumped all of their, dumped a whole bunch of their animated shows off of the network, and I believe it was for tax purposes, and they even dropped projects that was still ongoing, and people were very upset because they essentially sold their dream project
Yeah,
to the corporation. And it's like I can in a way like you could feel for them. Like I guess like the normal reaction, like you would feel for them, you would be on their side.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's a strict business move to cut losses, and as soon as you sign over the rights of your baby to that company, you're no longer the owner. You're just helping
yeah,
them to create it.
yeah. I think th- they've done it with webcomics recently. I don't know exactly who it was. I just remember reading something like a bit of a cautionary tale where people have been approached and sponsored to write their webcomic. So they it's their baby. They want to bring it to life. So a website approaches them, go, you can put your comic on our site, we'll pay you for it. But then when that comic stops performing, they take it off the site. Well, we're not getting any views, any hits from it, so it's not worth us keeping it. But we now own that, so you're not allowed to continue telling that story. You're not allowed to continue drawing that comic because we own the IP, and I think that's really frustrating. It's like something I'd definitely be very wary about.
Yeah, there's it's it's very unfortunate how predatory uh businesses can be, and I guess that kind of feeds into the animosity of
Yeah,
people thinking of the business side of entertainment versus the creators, the people who are actually producing the enjoyable parts of entertainment. Like
yeah,
there's like parts of like those worlds like that clash, but there's parts of those worlds that clash, but the people who make the entertainment, the enjoyable parts of the entertainment industry, they can learn from the business side. And the business side, I don't think they're gonna go that extra mile to like learn how to be creative, because at the business side of entertainment, like they can be successful in literally anything because
yeah,
they're trained up to sell a product, and that in entertainment is just another product. But it's like a one way, like a one way bridge. But
yeah.
I think like something that could that a lot of artistic types can learn is how to I guess market themselves better.
Yeah, I definitely need to learn
So yeah, so
that. But yeah, what you were just saying then, like I'm watching like a documentary on the Thing, Jonathan Carpenter's The Thing from the '80s, and when this great film, one of my favorite films, and when that was released, critically panned. Just, it weren't as successful as they wanted it to be. And I think looking at how that was made, there was a lot of studio interference there, where they sort of didn't understand. Um, I might be getting it mixed up with the remake actually, but they wanted like less of the monster, or they wanted to market in a certain way, and they didn't understand what they had in their hands, and sort of threw it away to an extent. I think that happens a lot. You get people in like these executive producer positions that they're there to make money. Right, that is the business at the end of the day. It's a business. It needs to make money, but they don't always understand what it is they're working with. Like you see, people they use test audiences, don't they? And like, depending on what this small group of people thinks of your artwork, your film, they take their reactions and go, right, we're going to make massive decisions to this based on this small, specific, select group of individuals. And yeah, you hear a lot of stories about, oh, test audiences didn't react well to this, so we've changed it significantly.
that is
I think it's a shame. You should just be able to put it out there as the director or the creator intends.
that is hilarious because that reminds me of two instances. where control audiences were completely wrong. The first one, well, I wouldn't say completely wrong, but like it's very interesting when you like take a step back. But the first one was South Park. I
Yeah,
think like when South Park was going through like their test audiences, it was bashed and panned like time again and again by its focus group. And the only reason why like it got on was I think it's because they just had like the right connections, like a lot enough people that was in the know-how. They essentially vouched for them.
yeah,
And when it got to the people out, when it got outside of the focus group, that's when everybody liked it. And and the second thing that comes to mind, it was there was a this documentary about movie posters, like the art of making movie posters, and it all started with in the beginning every movie or like a lot of movies used to start with the poster first. Like they would hire an artist and the
right.
artist would just they would give the artist like a title and they say make something that comes to your
Yeah,
mind when you think of this title. And then it was just up to the artist. They would probably give them some tools, some extra things, and then the artist would draw and create. And then the directors would look at his art piece, and then they would just create a story around the art piece. But as time went forward, the rise of like movie stardom and I guess
yeah,
parasocial relationships, whatever happened, uh, people started using like movie star faces. You know, as you can see, like with the modern Star Wars
yeah.
movies, like literally go to the movie theater or like cinema or whatever, and you'll just know what I'm talking about. You just see people's
Well,
faces everywhere.
Star was a good example of that. Like, don't know how controversial it will be mentioning this, but they take out certain actors in certain countries.
Oh yeah,
On,
absolutely.
and it's like that's exactly how it works. They're trying to market that film to that audience, and sometimes
I
it's
think
a bit unethical.
I don't know. I think the funniest example of that was actually the Black Panther one, where in the America
Oh
release
yeah, yeah,
you saw like the actor's face. It was just a close up of the actor's face, but
yeah.
in the Chinese release, he had the
So
mask on.
yeah,
So so just a bait and switch the Chinese audience to actually go see their movie.
yeah,
But that was it's the things to look out for. It's something interesting. I see that and I'm like things that make you go interesting. But
yeah. Do you sort of see how when now you're aware of it, do you see how other people are influenced by it sometimes? And
yeah, and I think well, I guess we can go back to that like later in the conversation. But
yeah,
I want to say that the reason why movie posters moved from the illustrations to the big actors is because people associated the illustrations of the movie posters as they're probably going to see a cartoon. They're probably going to see something that was
right,
meant for children. So when
yeah,
they saw like the movie actors, the familiar face, the first thing that came to their mind was, "Oh, yeah, I know this guy. I know these collection of names that's terribly pasted that breaks the composition of the poster. Yeah, like I'll go see it because it's a movie star that I like." And I think that was mostly for American audiences. I think it mostly for American audiences because I remember a focus group between like American audiences and like European audiences, where the European audience they really didn't care that much if it was illustrated or not. But for I think in the documentary they showed that like non-American audiences they preferred the illustrated covers, the illustrated posters over the Hollywood star face posters because the illustrated posters they were more aesthetically pleasing
right.
while Americans were operating off of self consciousness of like not wanting to walk into a kids movie, despite there's no like hint of it being that way other than the poster is illustrated.
I miss some of those, like with Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like like some of the Star Trek ones where you got a movie poster that was illustrated or painted, and it just looked amazing, like it's a work of art, and you don't see that much nowadays. It is just the main actors' faces in. Yeah, above the
Yeah,
title, and like you don't really get a feel for the movie from a lot of modern posters.
it's it's a very much it's a lost art. I think we might, if I would have to make a prediction, I feel like we might see a comeback of that because a lot of I see modern big budget movies. I think they're at an era where it's like a snake eating itself
Yeah,
right now. So they're putting too much money. I guess especially with Marvel because that's like the
yeah,
big thing
yeah,
that comes to
definitely.
mind. Like they're like they are. We're at the tail end of maybe sequelitis is not the thing anymore. Maybe we can't just keep making
Yeah,
sequels and like movies of a bunch of products that isn't tying to the books or anything substantial in any meaningful way. I think as soon as people will go to at least like smaller budget movies and those posters will convey a more artistic tone within their poster, we can probably like reach an equilibrium again because things have to get
yeah.
bad before they get better.
I think another point is that the audience knows too much about a movie before they go and see it, and
What
I
do you
think
Can you
I
explain
felt
that?
like that's happened a lot recently. People have got probably fatigued with certain type of films as well, um, and what makes me think of that is the new Miyazaki film, uh,
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli, the Boy
The
and the Heron.
yes.
He's purposely not released a trailer for it, right? He's
Hmm.
like, I don't want people to know anything about this film before they go and see it. I want them to go in and be completely fresh, which is something I like to do. I think it's really good watching a film when you know nothing about it. It's just difficult to do in the modern world. So Miyazaki's said no trailers. I want people to come in, be completely surprised by what happens. I've no foundation for what this film's going to be about. And all I keep seeing on the internet now, it's like, come over to the Western world are trailers for this film, and like where they start auto playing. I have to pause this now because I really want when I go and see it, I want it to be fresh. Um, yeah,
It's I have an interesting I hear so many contradictory things when it comes to that, but I feel like it comes down to personal preference because I remember I was looking at a documentary about human psychology, marketing, and like audience expectations, right? And when it comes like the reason why we have like so many trailers that essentially spoils the movie
yeah,
is psychologically we our little lizard brains like
yeah,
familiarity. So when we have something that when we have something that shows us what we're going to be going into, aren't we subconsciously think, oh yeah, I won't be surprised because
yeah. Feel safe.
people don't like being surprised at all.
Yeah,
I
Uh,
think the most common thing was probably like this, like a Scott Pilgrim anime that happened like recently.
yeah. I've not watched that yet, but I
Yeah,
have heard um, about certain demographics and their reactions to it.
no, I for me as like a light Scott Pilgrim enjoyer, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool with what they wanted to do. People were mad. I find that as a case study of how people really don't like being surprised
Yeah,
because
yeah,
everybody expected that it was going to
yeah,
be a an animated thing from Scott Pilgrim start to finish. I don't know what they expected, but they just wanted like a Scott Pilgrim
yeah.
adaptation
It's is it more
of the
Ramona Flowers
yeah.
centric?
It was more like a of like a what if story,
Ah, right.
and people was expecting something that they were familiar with. But what actually happened? It was marketed. It was marketed as like a an animated thing, but what we actually got was a new sort of what if story where the original author was answering criticism since he's like grown up and Scott Pilgrim's like
Yeah,
a couple decades old.
yeah,
He like had new perspectives living life, and he wanted to shine some lights on like what he thought he didn't do well in the original run and what he would do differently, but it was all in the confines of this new what if story. So it was like showing a different perspective of a story that people knew for decades, and
Oh,
people
that's
did.
really interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, but that wasn't what people was expecting. So people just panned it, and
Oh,
now we kind of have this whole dichotomy of people who actually like it. They get labeled as like, oh yeah, you're just into like the whole woke stuff because He-Man did the exact same
yeah.
thing, and I haven't watched it. I'm not that interested in He-Man,
No, I'm not
and
either.
like She-Ra and like all that stuff. But
No.
like like I feel like this was one of the instances that I would say it was very interesting. It was a bait and switch, but it was a bait and switch that I was welcome to because at the end result, at the end of the day, what I was served was still good.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, that just tells me that people really don't like being surprised.
Yeah.
So,
Well, look. My friend messaged me about it the other day and was telling me he'd watched it, and as you get older, you get more responsibilities, you have less
oh yeah,
time to
absolutely.
watch and enjoy things. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I've got the original Scott Pilgrim's 1 to 6 signed by Brian Lee O'Malley.
Oh man.
So like, I really enjoyed it when it came out. It's a really good film, and a really good comic. Sorry. Um, yeah, I get that. Something you made me think of while we were discussing that, though. I don't know how much of a hot take this will be. I always think like you had the Transformers movies in the late 2000s, early around that time, and I remember going to see Transformers 4, and it's like this is an absolutely awful film. Now that's my opinion, but at the same time, understanding why that film made a lot of money because that film is made. I think something Michael Bay is very good at. He makes films that appeal to a massive, broad spectrum of people. So you get lots of people going to see it. I mean, that's like I said earlier, it is a business, and these films are made to make money. I think when you've got what I find more interesting are like the more niche movies that when you watch a movie and you feel like this has been made just for me. However, I think because of my tastes, I don't think they're a bit more eclectic and maybe a bit more specific than other people's. You don't see, or I don't find a lot of like comics or films or TV shows like that. And when I do, I'm like that hungry for them. I just consume them immediately, and then I'm like searching for the next one.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. I wanted to. I guess we could probably find. I guess I'll just go into it because I wanted to like backtrack into the thing about the posters. Like one more thing
Yeah,
about like the posters and demographics because I mentioned about the Black Panther poster and and showing things for different audiences and how different understanding how different audiences wanted different things
yeah,
and a lot of people want it's it's weird how would I put this? It's weird how outrage marketing has shaped a lot how to give a message, you know.
yeah,
And I guess the best way I can kind of describe is if a product doesn't match an audience expectations, people want to like is either the audience the creators would blame the audience for not doing well or
yeah.
or like and vice versa.
Well,
And
I
I feel like
think
that's interesting.
I think a lot of the time we aren't sounding too patronising to a lot of the population of the world. I think a lot of the time, most of the audience doesn't sort of understand how that works, and I can think of one example, sort of again specific to me, but remember when Drive came out, the film with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
I went to see that. I had no idea what that was going to be about. I'd not seen any trailers for it, and I thought, fantastic film by Nicholas Winding Refn, and they then did a follow-up film called Only God Forgives. Again, Ryan Gosling, Nicholas Winding Refn,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Our
remember going,
guy.
yeah, I remember going to see Only God Forgives, and same when I saw Drive and same when I saw Only God Forgives, but more so with Only God Forgives because I think Ryan Gosling was blowing up a bit more then. I think a lot of people went to see it because Ryan Gosling's in this. It's going to be like a rom com or something, and they just went in and got something completely different both times, and like they were in, it's boring for Drive or We've Only God Forgives. I remember that like people I were working with went to see it and just like absolutely slating it, going, "Oh, absolutely awful film," and I'm like, I thought it were great. It's just they were expecting something completely different because of how it was marketed to them.
It's yeah, that is very interesting. It's very interesting. It's like a type like marketing. The one thing that I've been getting really into marketing as of late, because I was just kind of tired of expecting every different webcomic service trying to market for me. So
Yeah,
I guess a lot of failures kind of led me into thinking I need to market myself. I can't let anybody else do it for me because if anybody I need to see myself succeed more than anybody else. So when I started learning more into marketing, it's it's a very weird beast that has a bunch of psychology into it. You got to
yeah,
learn about yeah, well, I guess psychology is like the biggest thing. Learning like audience behaviors, what people like, what they don't like, what sort of messages can you like put that'll make people more enticed or like perk their ears,
yeah,
and the way that you format some a presentation or a commercial or what have you, that shape like you only have like 2 or 3 seconds to like get somebody to be
yeah.
interested.
Rip them.
And now with this social media, like with social media, and like you have like people like you and me competing for attention with like the with
Yeah,
CNN and like all these like Disney and the seven major corporations, or like five or six. I can't keep it count. Like
yeah.
Viacom, Disney, uh, some there are more. Paramount.
Uh,
No, that's Viacom, right? Yeah, that's Viacom. Never mind. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
See,
mean, you'll know more about them myself because I think there'll be
yeah,
different corporations where I'm based, but
but
sorry, different
yeah.
corporations that are leading where I'm based. Um, yeah, I was gonna say with marketing, I feel like it's constantly evolving as well. Like
Hmm.
there's you've got to be at the bleeding edge of what is going to be popular, what's going to grip people, and I feel like you've got to be there first because you like remember when people were doing flash mobs or whatever they were called, and like you had a couple of them happen, and then everyone started doing them to the point
Hmm.
that just lost its impact.
Oh yeah.
But for me with marketing my comic, I'm absolutely awful at it. Like, I have
That's why we're
my
here. That's why we're here.
yeah, my chapters come out every week. Sorry, chapters. The new pages come out every Wednesday, and I didn't share anything last week. I missed it on Wednesday because I forgot about it, and then I'll do it on Thursday. I'll do it on Friday, and then I'll just completely forget. Um, it's hard to do it, and I'm kind of like of the mentality now, which is probably not great. Of just like, oh, if people want to read it, they'll read it. um, and going
Hmm.
again back to what we were saying earlier, I feel like where you share your comic, like so if you put it on X or Twitter or whatever, or if you put it on forums, I
Hmm.
find that there's a lot of competition there, and I feel like the people that tend to look at those places aren't necessarily going in to look for a comic to read. They're more going in to promote their own comic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
So
that's my
like,
biggest problem with like putting your
mm,
comic on X, honestly.
yeah, yeah,
Or people are doing it wrong, like very, very wrong.
Yeah.
Because when I see people say, "Oh man, here's a part of my comic," they just post like a page or like a little
Mm.
video of their comic and says, "Hey, you can read the rest of it on this other website." I'm gonna be like, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave X to go to your comic
Mm.
to like read probably a page or two. I'm just gonna dip and go back to X because it breaks the experience on that app, and
Yeah, I
it's so
think
weird.
I'd not thought of that because I do that because like my comics hosted elsewhere, so I
Mm.
will just go when I do post like, oh, here it is, here's the new pages. Um, I suppose you're going to get more engagement going. Here's the page in full that you can read here. The the difficulty I have with that though is if it's how do you then tie all those pages together in a cohesive way. So, like if someone wants to go back to the start, that they can view them all. Like I think on X, it'd be difficult for me to do that.
I feel like maybe X is not the place to go to because they don't
Mm,
have a proper way. If they had a proper way to group your media,
yeah,
then I would abuse that. You man, like I would have like, here's my series one, two, three. Here's my personal stuff. Here's like
yeah.
here's just stuff that I find funny, but they just don't have it. It's just one continuous line that's just jumbled up. And I know people have like make separate Twitter or X accounts that's just their comic, and that's
All right,
cool. That's cool. Maybe. Oh,
good
hey,
idea.
I didn't even think about that. You could do that, but no buts. You could do that. I'm not gonna say buts because I don't want to put a limit to how people can
Yeah.
market
Well,
their stuff.
like something I keep getting told to do is to uh, put my comic on more like web comic. What would you call them? Not
Webcomic hosting
providers.
sites.
Yeah, hosting sites. To get it out there, to get it on more sites, and I don't know. So for me, like uploading them and doing all the admin side of it, I find it quite tedious. So I'm like, I just want to draw it when it's done right, upload,
Yeah.
gone, and then I'm on like I want to do the drawing side of it, the storytelling side of it, and I know I do need to invest a bit of time in like using other hosting sites and not just the one that I do.
I would ask you a question. How would you know that if you've been posting your comic on on a webcomic hosting site, how long would it take for you to realize that maybe your audience isn't there?
Um, I don't know actually, because it's
A
difficult. You've
lot
not got a lot
a
of
lot of people don't
control.
take that into account.
It's like how do you know? Because like I sort of go on. I'm like, oh, I'm doing all right, but you're sort of basing it off like previous chapters or previous pages, aren't
Yeah.
you? It's hard to compare it to other comics because you don't get that data, do you? You can see how many people have subscribed
That's
to
what I hate
other
about
comics.
Yeah, that's what I hate about webtoons. Like they don't tell you anything. Like
Yeah,
Global Comics they tell you, Tap has they tell you, but they don't even I don't even know if they have like a fraction of like how many people are on webtoons, and then the people on webtoons they only go to the people that webtoons pay them, so they're gonna
yeah,
of course they're gonna promote their own stuff first, and then they'll probably and like then like the people who don't want to see the main stuff they probably want to go to like their canvas feature. Maybe if you post frequently like they'll see you, but that's like over a period of months, and what they really want you to do is just share their website. They want to use you to share their websites to other
yeah,
websites that you go to, like Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and you're just that middleman. Like you're like the only person that's really benefiting is them. Is like Facebook and
yeah.
Webtoon or Facebook or whatever social media and Webtoons, because
Yeah,
like
I find
who knows if you're the people you gather on Webtoons, you can even monetize off of them, you know?
yeah, like I use Comic Fury at the
Oh, Comic
moment.
Fury, yes.
Yeah, and like no, there are other hosting sites out there, but I like Comic Fury because you can sort of see the engagement more. You get people going, you can they ask you questions, and like I find that that's a bit more limited on some of the other sites I've tried, and definitely on things like Facebook where you sort of it controls what is shown to the users. Um, Either that or I'm nowhere near as funny with some of my status updates as I think I am. But like you think, oh, this is brilliant, and then you get like 0 likes. I'm like, people just not seeing this, or am I just not funny?
Or
So
maybe you're the audience isn't there, and that's why I ask.
yeah, I mean that's it. Like I said, my biggest fan is my mum,
Ah,
and
that's amazing.
yeah, she'll share it every week. If I share it, she'll share it. She's like, come and look at this. She's not read a single page, but she'll share it every week. I've asked her about it, like, are you ever going to read it? She's like, no, it's not for me.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta find out.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta spread your wings.
It's
Like,
I think
yeah,
that's it, yeah, because you were looking at like very specific audiences, and it's like, how do you find them? And then when you do find them, how do you convince them that their time is
exactly.
worthwhile spent reading what you're creating? It's difficult.
Yeah, so like trying to get seen on a single platform is like
Yeah.
punching a brick wall, trying to like break it, and you don't know if what's gonna be on the other side. So I say like try to find creative ways to go where the people are. Maybe the
Yeah.
people aren't on Comic Fury. Maybe they're on different websites, like not even on like webcomic hosting websites. Maybe and literally any website that allows you to post photos,
Mm.
and if you can be creative of compiling those photos in like a group or an album, like that is a that's a hosting site. And
Yeah.
if that hosting site can allow you to monetize off of the people, off of the traffic, like a way easier than Comic Fury, then that's a win for you. And plus, since you're like an independent creator, it's like you can the bar is the bar of like monetization can be is like lower since you're not really paying like an artist or a letterer or
Yeah.
a marketer. It's all just you, and all the tools are available for you to find and are available to find and use, and like the main thing is just seeing is like taking a step back and realizing how can I make this work. Like what? Well, first, what's my goal, and how can I make it work?
Yeah, I think I do. I need to get around to doing that. I've been saying that for a while. Yeah, I, I know I need to do it. I just don't find it fun. So
Absolutely. That's
I need to knuckle down with it because I'm like at the moment. If you go, whoa, do you want to post this on Twitter or do you want to, do you want to try and, I don't know, sell your comic and
yeah.
engage people, or do you want to just draw the next thing? I'll draw the next thing. So I think like you said, why do you draw? I think the drawing process for me is very, I don't know. I don't want to say engaging again, but like you get into the zone when you're drawing and like you can switch off and just be focused on that one thing for a couple of hours. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think my mind is now attuned to finding that time. Uh, you know, once a day, every other day, or how often it can get it to sort of de-stress a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But went off on a tangent for the marketing
Like
question. But,
it,
hmm.
it just happens. It just happens. I should have asked this question like probably 10 minutes ago. But what do you see? What do you want to see more of in your field?
Yeah, it's another one that I think I've thought about it a lot, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I think webcomics that have got a good, engaging story. Now, I've tried to read quite a lot of webcomics, and I don't find that there are sound horrible, but I think the story is not as engaging like the concept. I think a lot of stuff's quite derivative,
Hmm.
and I know this might sound harsh, especially from my perspective. If people read my comic and find it incredibly derivative itself, I don't know, but it's like there's that freedom there with webcomics. draw whatever you want, tell whatever story you want, to do something really different. I don't feel like enough people are tapping into that at the moment. Um, I think some of the better webcomics I've read have been just different. You know, like read it, it's really fresh. It's a fresh perspective, or it's a fresh story. Um, yeah, I think that's what I'd like to see more of.
How would people break the problem of being too derivative?
It's a very difficult one. I genuinely don't know. I know, like I've created a problem, but no idea what the solution is. But um, I'm trying not to sound like a dick, but
Please,
and yeah,
it
it's
helps.
like
It's the
sorry,
honesty. It's the honesty that not a lot of people
yeah.
are honest anymore.
Well, I think um, read a lot of stories, and like they sort of. I know there's only so many stories you can tell, and only so many ways you can tell the story, but it's like it's like that framework's already there, and they're not trying to change the actual story itself or the plot points about too much. They're just going through the motions. I think you can say it about a lot of media now, like with films as well. It's just going through plot points that you've seen happen countless other times in other movies, and it's like challenge that. That's what I'd like to see. Like some of the better web comics I've read have been, completely off a tangent to that, like really unexpected, or you don't know what's going to happen. I hope this is making some sense, but yeah,
Oh yeah, I get you.
characters that are engaging as well. Like I think people tend to put a lot of time and effort into drawing characters that look really cool. They look good. They've got a really unique design. But then when you read it, do you engage with them? Like, what's the motivation and what are they going through? I know as I'm saying this, this is something that I've recognized myself in what I'm doing that I need to do more in, like show that motivation and get your audience um, in tune with the characters and following them through. Like find ways to build that relationship between the people on the page and the people looking at the page.
Would you say like earlier that really caught my attention was that earlier we were talking about what through marketing what catches the majority of people's attention, and I feel like that kind of bleeds over to the ocean that is how many people can make art, comics on the internet. And the more people you get, the more people show like how influenced they are. People like are getting their feet wet when
Yeah,
it comes to storytelling, and the first thing that we all know are the tropes of like the stories that we want to tell, but people don't realize how to make a story different, and I propose that what makes a story different is that it's coming from the individual, the storyteller, because
yeah.
people don't
Well,
think that.
that's it.
Yeah, the people
I
don't
think
really.
you've got it there. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize how different that they are. Like you can have a twin, but you can have a very different view of
Mm,
life, a very different perspective of life when
yeah.
you look at the same story.
So yeah, making something that's personal, unique to themselves from their unique perspective.
Yeah.
I think yeah, that's what you've got to do when you're writing a character is look, you've only got your perspective, so you sort of putting yourself in their shoes, but then you're trying to add on to that like their experiences in this imaginary world and their feelings to understand what makes them tick and how they would react to a situation rather than just going, I need this character to do this to progress the story. You want them to feel real, like
Yeah. Are you
real
from?
people.
Are you familiar with like this is gonna be a weird question. Might be. Oh, I'll just ask. Are you familiar with Naruto? That anime, the manga?
I'm not. No, my
Okay.
girlfriend's watched it. She watched it recently, and I think I've not read it. It's on my list to read, but I've not got a massive amount of time. I'm
Uh,
making excuses. I know
it's
it's
generally
really
about.
good.
I like
Yeah,
it. Won't I won't go like in too deep with it.
mm,
Basically, Naruto's about a kid who wants to become respected in his little ninja
yeah,
village, and within the ninja world, they have everybody. Everybody's essentially a soldier. A soldier is like being like a ninja. Is like basically being a soldier for your clan, for your village,
yeah,
and the main character, yeah, like I said, the goal of the main character is to be respected because he's born from a very low position. Nobody
yeah.
likes him, and his goal is to just work his way up. And surprise, surprise, he gets what he wants. I'm sorry, spoilers. He gets what he wants at the end, and
Boruto and that too.
yeah, he has a kid. So I guess you know about Boruto. So he has a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
So I guess you got spoiled. I'm sorry. Um, but I was watching this one video of a guy who made a sort of a critique of the character of Naruto, and his
Right.
critique was Naruto didn't change the ills of the world that he lived in because the world that he lived in, it very much glorifies people being ninjas, and being a ninja is essentially being a soldier. And when you first go into
Yeah.
Naruto, like people want to be soldiers for their country at a young age, as young as like 13.
Right.
And the guy critiquing said Naruto should have changed this, should have changed the ills of being glorifying child slavery amongst other stuff, as in
Right.
experimenting on people and other dark themes that the story told. And I was like looking at his critique, and I had to laugh because I was thinking, are we looking at the same thing? It's like
Th-
he
That's
didn't
the
want to
beauty
do
of it,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Like different people can read different things from TV shows, films, comics.
yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say like I thought you were going to make a different point because it got me thinking. I've recently read One Piece.
Right.
Um, Say recently, it took me a long time to read it. Sort of started reading it not so recently. Um, but I think One Piece is universally acclaimed. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
thinks it's excellent. I'm not going to disagree there. But one
Absolutely.
thing that I'm going to sound really grumpy, but one thing that always irritated me a little bit with One Piece is how the majority of characters come on and they go, "I'm going to be king of the pirates. I'm going to be the best swordsman in the world. I'm going to go to the All Blue." And it's like one of the first things they do is go, "This is my motivation." And it's like I just feel like I I I want that, but not as in your face. Like I'm gonna spell it out for you, a
Like
bit more
who?
subtlety and
Yeah. Like who speaks like that?
yeah. But it's just like I remember. I don't know if it's because I've read it all in one go, but the number of times like Luffy's saying I'm gonna be king of the pirates, and it's like it's just in your face all the way through that this is his motivation. There's no doubt in my mind that he'll get that or something similar, is it? And it's like, um, I think what I want to do when I'm writing a character is make them a lot more real.
Mm-hmm.
So like you sort of understand the character's motivation, but on a baser level, and maybe that motivation will change, but it's not going to change for no reason. You're going to understand the motivation behind the motivation changing. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something I've thought about a lot recently, and it's like as I've progressed through and drawn more and more chapters and started to learn not just about how to draw, but how to write and how to tell a story. You pick up new things. So I remember seeing a thread on this, like, oh, should I go back and redraw my earlier chapters? And someone said no, because you're always improving. If you go back and draw them now, you're gonna want to go back and draw them again
That's a really good
later.
point.
Uh, but I think for me, like I have improved enough that at some point I'm definitely going to go back and draw it because like I can't. There's some of the earlier ones like looking at people's faces and now I thought a face was made up. I don't know how that happened. I mean, that's probably like continued up until pretty recently, I think. But it's all as well as the actual the drawing of it, the artwork. It's the story and how that story's told. I think with me, what I want to do at some point is go back and add extra bits in or change how some of um, the story develops and like make it clearer what's going on. I think what another thing that annoyed me. I know I've already slagged off One Piece of
Hmm.
all like mangas slag off, but one thing that annoys me as well is when you're reading a comic or watching a film, and the first thing they do is go, "Here's a massive wall of text for you to read," and that will set the scene. I think they say show don't tell, but you get
There's
a
a
lot of stories start with that. Oh, it's the year X, and this is what's happening. I like to be thrown in medias res, as they say,
mhm.
like in the middle of the scene. You don't know what's going on, and you sort of find out what's um, key to the story as you go, and the creator controls what you find out and when, and sort of tell it that way rather than just like, right, here you go, here's a bit of pre-reading to set you up. You want that.
Yeah.
I like the air of mystery. I like feeling like I'm going into a world to find out and understand what's going on, find out a bit about how these characters take and what it is they want. And I think going back to what I said about One Piece, that's the thing that sort of sticks out a bit for me there is the characters. The It's very obvious what they want. There's no sort of mystery around it. You know how they're going to react in certain situations, which is really good to a degree, but I find them a bit one-dimensional or two-dimensional at times. Oh, I'm gonna get slated for that opinion.
I understand. I understand. One last question. How can people support your goal?
Um, just going on, reading the comic and sharing it with the friends, the family. I think it's better for it to be shared to people that are more likely to want to read it. Like I said earlier, like I appreciate my mum sharing my comic with all her friends, but I don't think any of them are that engaged in it. So it's like supporting each other and getting the the comics or the stories in front of the right people. Like
Hmm.
I'm always happy to do that for others. Yeah, and just it'd be good if everyone
Yeah.
did that, build up each other's audiences.
Yeah. Advertising is expensive, but word of mouth is free.
Yeah,
So share it around.
yeah.
Yeah. So my name. This has been Drawing Solo. My name is Mason McKinney, and I'm with.
Norton.
And if you want to find out how to get inspiration from anywhere, make sure you sign up to my newsletter and get a free ebook that'll tell you how to do so. My gift to you. Signing out.